Hello, everybody. Tim the Hulk Brzakala here with another episode of Multiplex Loves Movies. This is episode number 2, and tonight I've got a larger panel than I did last week to talk about Quentin Tarantino movies in honor of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood coming out this weekend. So like I said, I've got a big panel here. Why don't we go around and introduce ourselves, starting with Mr. Jim Green.
Introductions are always fun. This is my first time being on this show because it's 2 weeks old. So, but not my first time talking about movies with the good brother Tim. And what better movies to talk about than the Quentin Tarantino films, because they are amazing and awesome. And I'm just ready and excited to talk about them and ready to see his 9th film this week. So I'm just ready.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Sean, why don't you? I've actually never been on a call with you or talked to you ever beyond the chat for this. So, you a big Tarantino fan?
A little bit. Some might say pathologically obsessed. That's probably a fair assessment. Like, I feel like anytime Quentin Tarantino gets brought up in a general call, I feel like that moment where Meg touches the thermostat in Family Guy, Peter just runs into the room and goes, "Who touched the thermostat?" So that's kind of the way that I am with it. And I know that both Jim and Caleb know their shit about Tarantino. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun. And Jim, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely. And little Boatman, how you doing over there?
Oh, I'm doing good. I love me some Tarantino. I like a lot of his movies. They are good.
Yes, they are good. There's only like one and a half of his movies that I don't really like, and we'll get into that. But basically the way the show is going to work is we're just some guys sitting on a couch talking about movies. That's kind of the gist of the show. We want you to be part of the conversation. So if you're watching live, go in the live chat. If we say something that you think is dumb, tell us we're dumb. If you say something, or if we say something that's absolutely spectacular, feel free to bow at our beautiful feet. So that being said, the way we're going, normally we just talk about a certain set of movies. We'll talk about, like last week we talked about Lion King. Next week we're only going to talk about a couple Fast and Furious movies before Hobbs and Shaw. But tonight we are going to talk about all the Tarantino movies, just kind of more like his career as a director. He's directed 8 films. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood will be his 9th. So we're going to kind of split them up that way. Talk about the first 4, the beginning of his career, and then the second half will be, his other 4 films and the later half of his career. So starting off, he directed Reservoir Dogs. Comes out of the gate with Reservoir Dogs. Do we like Reservoir Dogs? I love this movie.
Yeah, Reservoir Dogs, it's like a classic for the reason it kind of sets up everything that Tarantino does best. It's kind of like I don't want to say stereotypical, but it's kind of like really what you think of when you think of Tarantino movie. You think of the suits, you think of the violence, you think of the pop culture discussions. It's really the entire blueprint for the rest of his work.
Was this the first Tarantino movie that you guys saw? Because it wasn't for me. It wasn't my first Tarantino.
Definitely was not. No, not even a close.
Yeah, my first was Inglourious Bastards, and that's kind of where I found him. And then I went back, and this probably actually was maybe like the 3rd or 4th one that I saw. But I remember vividly watching it the first time. It was on Netflix, and I just watched it and was like, "Oh shit, this is real good."
Yeah.
Yeah, Netflix. I know, crazy. Now I own it on Blu-ray. You what?
I didn't see it till it was on Netflix either.
Yeah.
Oh, I was getting computer aids watching Tarantino.
Oh, gotcha. Understood. Sean, how do you feel about Reservoir Dogs?
I love Reservoir Dogs. I think Paul touched on it when you guys were discussing directors at one point. And he said
Schmodown, movie trivia Schmodown champion Paul Yama.
Yeah, movie trivia Schmodown of the world Paul Yama. Yeah, we talked about that on Your List Sucks. Yeah.
By the way, congrats, champ. Reservoir Dogs is sort of like much like Paul said, a lot of the dialogue, the characters can wind up sounding quite a lot like one another. Reservoir Dogs is probably the one where every character has their own individual voice. And it doesn't just sound like it's sort of the same problem that you have with Sorkin films. A lot of Sorkin films, everyone sounds the same. But yeah, in terms of like fleshed out characters, everyone's unique in Reservoir Dogs, and I think it's fucking fantastic.
My favorite thing about this movie is like Boatman brought up the violence, and he knows the perfect ways to use violence, and that even goes on through, like, I watched Django Unchained today, and there's moments of that movie where like he could have gone over the top with the violence, but he chooses not.
Before he goes over the top with the violence.
Exactly that. Like, the violence is always over the top, but he chooses the right moments. So for instance, like, I don't think we actually see the ear getting cut off.
That's what I think. Reservoir Dogs' violence is like so perfect, because you have the ear cutting off, and then you have when Tim Roth gets shot, and it's like you don't actually see the like over the top like bloody violence where it's just like psh, psh. That's the thing. It's very realistic violence, and it's like super violent, but it's in a realistic way, which is why I think like Reservoir Dogs kind of has the best violence, because he didn't go Tarantino-y where it's just like super over the top violence.
Yeah,
I want to point out that Reservoir Dogs is my favorite Tarantino line ever.
Okay.
If you shoot me in a dream, you better wake up and apologize. I love that.
Well, actually, it's that you have the right movie, but you have the wrong line, and it's the part where he goes, "Buddy, I'm gonna shoot you in the face if you don't put your hands up on that." That's the best line. That's the best line. Such like a cop line, and it's so perfect.
Well, and like Sean was saying, just all of his dialogue, just like all the characters are so well fleshed out. Just that opening scene, they're in a diner alone, just like the camera spinning around. It's so fucking perfect. Like, he just is like right out of the gate. He's great.
And I do want to point out about that diner scene. It's kind of like a foreshadowing in a sense, because who rats out Mr. Pink for not tipping?
Tim Roth.
It's Tim Roth, Mr. Orange, who is revealed to be the rat. Tim Roth.
Spoilers.
That subtle kind of
spoiler alert, Boatman. Yeah.
We're gonna spoil pretty much. If you're here and watching, we're gonna spoil a lot of Tarantino.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Reservoir Dogs yet, what are you doing with your life?
We implore you to go and watch it. So moving on then, his next film is Pulp Fiction, which is kind of the one that everybody, like, if you think of Tarantino, I feel like the first words are Pulp Fiction. I saw this movie in high school, and it was one of those movies where, like, when I started becoming like a film fan, people were like, "Oh, you gotta watch Pulp Fiction. You gotta watch Pulp Fiction." And I watched it and liked it. But I gravitate to his other movies more. Like, I do enjoy the movie, but I've only seen it twice, and I never really have a desire to pop it in. Whereas, like, Reservoir Dogs or Inglourious Basterds or Django, I always want to pop in. So I don't know how you guys feel about Pulp Fiction, but that's my take.
It's my favorite.
Okay, all right. Why do you love it so much?
Well, I mean, for many of the reasons that we love his other films so much. The violence is tremendous. The dialogue is fucking pitch perfect. You know, weirdly enough, though, it's actually not as violent as people make it out to be, because I remember growing up, people would always tell me that Pulp Fiction was an insanely violent film. And realistically, you don't actually see all that much. It's mainly just a lot of people just talking. I mean, probably the most violent thing you see is, "Oh man, I just shot Marvin in the fucking face." That's probably about it. Which, by the way,
even one of the funny. You don't see Marvin get shot in the face. You see all you see is
all you see is just the splatter of his head on the back windshield.
Mm-hmm.
But
I do love all of the different stories coming together, and like all the performances are, like you said, pitch perfect. All the performances are absolutely great. I don't think there's a bad one in here. I especially am fond of the Bruce Willis story. I think that one's probably my favorite. I just like that part of the story. What about you, Jim? What do you like about this movie?
This was actually the second/third, because I saw both the Kill Bills first. Like, randomly one. I mean, this was before commercial internet really took off. So like I saw Kill Bill like randomly one night on Stars. Like that was my first. I saw it and I was like, "This is the greatest movie ever made." And then I saw Kill Bill Volume 2, and then like happenstance like one night, I saw a reference to Pulp Fiction on like another TV show, and it was like, so I was like, "What's Pulp Fiction?" I was like, "Wait, the guy that made Kill Bill made Pulp Fiction." So I'm like, I need to see this. So whenever I saw it come up on like a movie channel, I saw it and I was like, okay, this is really awesome, because like Uma Thurman's there, and then so you have some of the same like people from Kill Bill in it. So I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of awesome. And I didn't really grasp, because internet, like I couldn't just like Google it and stuff yet. So yeah, I saw it, and it had just, especially compared to Kill Bill, like again, he didn't take off into that Tarantino ultra violence yet, whereas the violence was really grounded and kind of more realistic. So yeah, and then just Sam Jackson in it is incredible. Honey Bunny is awesome. Yeah, just the whole restaurant. I think those are my favorite scenes. Is like the beginning and the end in the restaurant with Tim Roth and Amanda Plummer and Sam Jackson being Sam Jackson in that movie is just the best.
Absolutely. We've got some people in the chat. Jonathan Peck asks, are we going to talk about True Romance, Natural Born Killers? Someone on the Multiplex account, I think, is speaking for me. That's not me, though. We are only discussing his directed films. I've never seen True Romance, which I know is like blasphemous. I know people love that movie. I've never seen it. But we are just only going to talk about his movies. So
I will tell you, Tim,
go ahead.
When you do watch True Romance, I can already tell you what your favorite part of it's probably going to be. Just remember the word Drexel.
Okay, sounds good. I will
just remember the location, Ambassador Hotel. Am I right, Sean?
Fuck off, Jim.
All right. Anyway, moving on. We're going to go on to a movie that Jim has apparently never seen. You claim to be such a big fan, Jim, yet you've never seen this film. No, we're going to talk about Jackie Brown. This is the only Tarantino film I don't like, and it's not because there's anything outwardly bad about it. It just didn't connect with me. I saw it once, didn't care for it, and that was that. What about you guys?
It's only adapted film. He didn't just like, it's just not straight from his mind. It's adapted from a book, I think.
An Elmore Leonard novel.
Yeah, Rum Punch.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you, Sean? How do you're a huge Tarantino fan. How do you feel about the movie?
I'm a very big fan of Jackie Brown. I think Pam Grier's performance in it was fucking tremendous. Michael Keaton, it's one of the few times you really get to see him, post Batman, like before he had like kind of like the big renaissance and whatnot. But not just that, like Robert Forrester, his performance as Max Cherry is tremendous. The scene with at the very beginning when she's just going down that walking run, that moving floor,
the conveyor belt.
Yeah, conveyor belt
at the airport.
Yeah, when it's 110th Street that's playing is like, to me that's like one of the best openings to a Tarantino movie, because all it is it's just her basically standing completely still, but there's something so engaging and gravitating about that performance. I think it's absolutely amazing. Plus, Sam Jackson is Ordell Roby, Chris Tucker, the brief moment he has with Beaumont Livingston. And the dialogue once again is like pitch perfect. It is definitely one of my favorite Tarantino movies, and on the right day I enjoy it just about as much as any other. And there's a lot of the same tropes that you'd find in other Tarantino movies, but it's definitely the least violent of any of his films. Yeah,
for sure.
Without question.
I guess I might just need to give it a rewatch, because the first time I saw it was the last one I had to see. It was the one I missed. I feel like it's the one people forget about the most, maybe even more than Death Proof. And I saw it, like 2-3 years ago. And like I said, it just didn't connect with me. But maybe I do just need to give it a rewatch and I might enjoy it more. Boatman, how do you feel about the movie?
I really love Jackie Brown. I think everything Sean mentioned is part of why I love it, but I want to shout out Robert De Niro in one of my favorite performances ever from him as Lewis. I think he is fantastic. It's a completely different De Niro. He really doesn't it's not like De Niro doesn't care, but the character just doesn't care. It's like such a unenthusiastic character in that I love the scene with him and Samuel L. Jackson where it's like, where's Melanie? Well, yeah, about that. I shot Melanie. You shot Melanie? I love that scene so much.
Also,
that scene is great, and I love the mall heist when you get to see it from all three different perspectives. You get to see it from the perspectives of. You get to see it from Jackie's perspective, Max Cherry's perspective, and Ordell's perspective. I want to say the three. Yeah, and that entire sequence is fantastic, seeing it from all those 3 points of view, how Jackie kind of pulls the wool over everybody's eyes. It's really great. And yeah, I think Jackie is probably a super underrated character in terms of Tarantino lore. I think because she does, unlike the Bride or a lot of other Tarantino characters, she never has to kill anybody. She does it all with up here. Her entire plan is up here rather than just through violence, which, not to say anything against the violence, because that's why we love Tarantino, but it's refreshing to see a character who doesn't have to do that and is able to win through the day in a Tarantino movie.
Well, maybe that's part of the reason why, it didn't hit with me was I was expecting it to be, a violent, over-the-top Tarantino movie, and it wasn't, and so I was taken a little off guard. So maybe me and Jim, maybe you and I can watch it together, Jim, and we can experience it, because you said you've never seen it, right?
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. So movie time with Tim is never – I'm never going to say no to movie time with Tim.
Remember when you and I saw Hellboy together, Jim?
Not really, because I slept through most of it, but yeah, vaguely. And the seats sucked, so my back hurt.
The seats did suck. That was rough. But anyway, okay, so we are going to move on to the fourth film from Tarantino, kind of the movie, the capper of the beginning of his career that kind of really announced him. If Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs hadn't done it, this was the one, and that's Kill Bill. And for all intents and purposes, we'll talk about it as one movie. I do have a couple things to say about Part 2 specifically, but I think that Kill Bill is really, really, really great. It's in my top tier, but I do think that the second half, meaning Part 2, isn't as good as Part 1. I love Part 1. I think Part 1 is fantastic. I think Part 1 is perfect. Love it. And Part 2 is good. It just doesn't live up to Part 1 as much for me. And I think that has a lot to do with the last 30 minutes of Part 1 are absolutely insane. So if you put separation between them, you watch Part 1 and then a week later watch Part 2, I don't think Part 2 holds up as much. But as a whole combined, if you watch the whole bloody affair at once, it's an absolutely amazing movie. Jim, I know that this, like you said, I'm pretty sure this is your favorite, right?
Yes, it is definitely my favorite because it is the first one I saw. So it was my first brush with that ultra violence, and that's where Tarantino took off with the super ultra violence of what he was doing. Whereas as we know Tarantino now, that's where it kind of started, was the mega violence of The Bride and the Crazy 88. And I just personally loved it because it was like that the showdown at the House of the Blue Leaves was nothing I'd ever seen, because you have that song, I have no idea what it's called, but with the walking up of Oren and her main crew, and then you have the what is it, the 5, 6, 7, 8s, I think they're called, is and then it's just switches from that song to them, and then it's just so much perfect. And especially you have that out of chronological like Tarantino stuff where it's like you see her with Vernita Green, and then you go back and it's just I could do this whole hour on Kill Bill. Like there's just I think my favorite moments from this movie are the just the parts with Hanzo where it's just like, you know, where at first she's just like, oh, I kind of know how to speak Japanese. I'm learning, but am I good? And he's like, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, she starts speaking Japanese and, you know, you're like, oh shit, stuff's about to happen. And it's just incredible. I love it. Somebody else could talk about it now because I'm before I exploded on that.
All right, Sean, why don't we go to you next?
I fucking love Kill Bill Volumes 1 and 2. I'm actually with you in the fact that I liked Volume 1 better than I liked Volume 2.
I'd agree with that.
Like I'm a really big fan of setup, and the setup in Kill Bill Volume 1, if you're not gonna like have the perfect payoff for it, which in a lot of ways it is, but there's stuff that kind of bogs down Volume 2, where Volume 1 to me is like fucking amazing. And speaking to one thing Jim mentioned, all the stuff with Hanzo is so dope. Like to me, one of the most badass lines in that movie is, I need Japanese steel. It's like, oh,
you must have big rats if you need that Tubby Hanzo's a steel. Yeah. Just the delivery is so perfect too. Oh god.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, like I love all that stuff. The fight between her and El Driver in Volume 2 as well is one of my favorite fights in movie history. I don't think it's as good as her fight with Oren in the Crazy 88, but it's damn close to it. And Gordon Liu as Pai Mei in Volume 2 is fucking awesome. Oh, he's great.
Yeah, speaking of... Oh, sorry. Guys. I was going to say, speaking of, in the comments right now, we've got a lot of people excited about Kill Bill. So we've got Nazario saying Kill Bill as one film. It's the best thing ever. My wife, Maggie, is in the comments. She's saying she's only seen it once. The Macaw, yes. And it wasn't her first Tarantino. Douglas Castle is actually saying that the ending of Volume 2 is his favorite ending Tarantino's ever done. Nazario is also saying Volume 2 over Volume 1. He's also a setup guy, but come on, Pi. Yeah, so, you know, they like Kill Bill. They like Kill Bill. So, Boatman, you haven't said anything yet. How do you feel about Kill Bill?
Yeah, I love Kill Bill too. I'm in the minority here, though, because I actually prefer Volume 2 to Volume 1.
Okay, so you're with the Nazario and the Douglas Castle camp here.
Yeah, I am in half of good company. I'm kidding, Douglas. You're cool. But no, seriously, yeah, I love both the parts. But to me, Kill Bill 2, Volume 2 is so much more like character focused, and I really love that. I love the kind of exploration of the bride's backstory. I love the stuff with Bud and El Driver. I think that stuff's all really great, and I love the showdown with her and Bill. I think that stuff works really well in my opinion. And I love Bill's monologue about Peter Parker and Batman and Superman. And I think it's honestly the best argument I've ever heard for why Superman is an interesting character, because I've never been a Superman fan, but that kind of monologue kind of was like, okay, so now I kind of see more the appeal of Superman as a character. But yeah, I love that entire scene. And I think I really do like Kill Bill 1, but like the action, it's great, but having it one after the other, like so much of it in such a block of time, there's not a lot of room to like breathe. There's not a lot of resting time. It's just do, and it gets a little tiring to where like after the Crazy 88 fight, you go on to where she fights Lucy Liu's character, Orenishi, and it's great. But I wish there would have just been a little bit of a rest in between or something to where, because I feel like that fight scene loses its effect just a little bit because it's right after the Crazy 88.
See, I disagree. I love the Lucy Liu fight right after. I think it complements the fight right before it really, really well. And I love the way the part one ends too. It's like, I think it's fantastic. I think that whole last like 30, 40 minutes all complements each other really, really well. But again, it seems like we all are a fan of Kill Bill in one way or the other, whether it's first or second. Jim is having the time of his life. No, it's okay. You're good. You're good, my friend. All right, so we're going to move on. So that's kind of the first half of his career. In my opinion, 3 hits and one that's other people seem to like. I'm just not there, but that's okay.
I completely missed it. Jackie Brown has the fun joke in the first Neighbors where they're like, "Who are you?" "I'm Sam Jackson from Jackie Brown." And then they start doing he's like, "You talking to me? That's the wrong movie, you assholes." Neighbors is
I do not remember that. That is a funny movie, but I don't remember that at all. But anyway, let's move on. The second half of his career, he's got 4 more movies. The first one is released in a bit of a unconventional way, and that movie is Death Proof. And it was released alongside Robert Rodriguez's Planet Terror.
One of his BFFs.
Yeah, in a movie called Grindhouse. I actually really like Grindhouse as a whole experiment type thing. I saw it in the theater and loved it. I love all the little stuff they add in there, like the fake trailers and the fake film, like cutting out and coming back in, and you're just like missed like 20 minutes of Planet Terror, but they keep it going anyway. I think that's all really, really fun and cool. Death Proof as a movie alone, though, other than Jackie Brown, is probably my least favorite movie. Jim, are you okay?
Apparently Sex in the City is very funny. But I'm fine. Personally, I am fine. And Admission Time. This is the other one I haven't seen. I haven't seen Grindhouse. I know a lot about it, but yeah, this is the other one that I have not seen. Unlike Sex in the City, which Jordan has apparently seen and is very hilarious right now.
Very funny. Yeah, I mean, I think Death Proof is probably the better of the 2 Grindhouse movies as a whole, like as the way films are, like the film itself is made better, it's acted better, it's written better than Planet Terror. But I thought it was fine. I don't love it. How do you guys feel about it? Boatman, what do you think?
I mean, it's Tarantino trying to make a 70s exploitation movie, and that's exactly what it is. It's Tarantino is doing exactly what he sent out to do. Those 70s kind of exploitation movies aren't as much kind of my bag, but it's probably, if I have to like watch one, I'll kind of watch the Tarantino version of it. So I do like it for what it is, but it's definitely the one I rewatched the least.
Sure. Before we go over to Sean's thoughts, we've got other people in the chat. Nazario, again, he's saying Death Proof is better than Planet Terror. Agreed. Maggie is saying, the Macaw is saying that anything that Kurt Russell touches is perfect. And Nazario agrees with you as well. Rodriguez did a spoof of a 70s exploitation film. Tarantino just made a good exploitation film. I would tend to agree with that a little bit, but like Boatman said, I never go to revisit this movie. But I do agree with Maggie that everything that Kurt Russell touches is gold. So, Sean, what do you think about Death Proof?
I was going to say, your wife's a smart woman, so everything Kurt Russell does touch turns to gold. Boatman, literally, I couldn't have said it any better. It's Tarantino making a 70s exploitation film. It's what he set out to do, and it's exactly what he did. I mean, if you view it from that lens, it's kind of a perfect film. But once again, it is the one that I revisit least out of all his movies. But yeah, it's like I have nothing to add. Boatman hit every single point. That was absolutely pitch perfect. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And so and I would happen to agree with you guys. I just. It's the one that we revisit the least because it's kind of the weird outlier of all of his films, but it's still I think it's still great. It's just it's meh. Like, I don't know. It's a weird thing because it is written really well and the performances are really good. It's just kind of there. But that being said, his next film the one that is my favorite, Inglourious Bastards.
Same.
And I don't know if it's because it was the first one I saw or what, but
Probably.
I absolutely love this movie. I didn't get to see it in the theaters, but I saw it right when it came out. Me and my dad rented it and watched it together, had a blast, and I've always had that fond memory of watching that movie with him. But then just even going back and revisiting it, every time I revisit it, I just like, it's one of those things where I remember like, oh yeah, this movie is fucking awesome. Just like at every moment, every scene, the dialogue is so perfect from every character in this movie, and just the places the movie goes, the way he messes with history is absolutely fantastic. I love this movie. Someone go. I don't care who.
All right, well, I'll go. This is my favorite Tarantino movie ever. This is not only my favorite Tarantino movie, this is my top 5 of all time. I love this movie like a lot. There are so many things. I feel like, the obvious stuff is like Christoph Waltz, but like my favorite Tarantino scene ever is in this movie, and it's not the opening, it's the pub scene. It's when it's Michael Fassbender in the pub in the basement.
German 3.
Yeah, with the
German
three glasses, but just the build up to it with the Then I Must Be King Kong then, and all of that. But the tension, the build up, the shootout, that entire sequence is great. I love that Tarantino is able to like do a third of that movie with subtitles.
Not even a third. I feel like it's more like
more than that.
65, 70%. It's most of it.
Yeah,
well, and this is also the first time I think that like Daniel Bruhl has like, at least that I was like, who is this person?
Yeah.
Like, he's so good in this movie. And that's the thing is, and same thing with Michael Fassbender. The scene you brought up is absolutely my favorite part of the movie, but he does such a good job of picking these actors and throwing them in there and just giving them these perfect moments and knows how to make them shine. We also get former movie trivia schmodown of the world. Sam Levine is in this movie.
Yeah.
So that's a fun time.
Was that a question in the speed round of Ethan Irwin versus Bib?
No, Irwin versus Roca. That was
Roca.
And then neither of them answered, and Sam Levine.
That was the none of this. Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. Sean, how do you feel about Inglourious Bastards?
I love Inglourious Bastards. The opening scene, which I thank Boatman for allowing me to touch on this a little bit. That is one of the most tense, nerve-wracking scenes in film history. And at the end of it, it's shot almost as though it's like a horror movie, which is absolutely the perfect thing to do, given the subject matter. The performance by Christoph Waltz is genius, absolutely genius. And the farmer, Miss Pierre Lapadite, his performance is unbelievable as well. A little fun fact about this movie: Tarantino originally had it written where it was too long to be a film, and him being the egomaniac that he is, he just goes, "Am I too big for film now?" And it's like, no, you fucking moron.
Wow.
But yeah,
Sean going hard
between that, the bar scene, which is fantastic, and maybe one of, if not the most iconic scenes, the scene with Sergeant Donnie Donowitz, where it's him clacking the bat off the ground, walking out to kill the German soldier. He just looks at him and just goes, "You get that for killing Jews?" He's like, "No, for bravery." And then he just bashes his head in. And Sam Levine has one of my favorite lines in that whole movie. When that happens, he just looks at the 2 German soldiers that are sitting down. He just goes like, "I'd be shitting my pants if I was you right now." It's awesome. The dialogue's pitch perfect. In fact, Tarantino did half of it in multiple different languages, and just the fact that it's like almost every single performance in that movie is just spot on. And once again, dialogue, everything, same thing as always.
I listened to the AMA for this today. Actually, and they were touching on things like the one thing about like what's so great about Waltz and that beginning scene is just like how he's so like controlling the situation to where he's like, and it's so creepy in the way that he's doing it, where he's like, you're a farmer, yes, so I'll have your finest milk, and he's like controlling the situation, and then it gets really tense when he's like, since I hear no ruffling under the floorboards, I can assume that they don't speak the language. And it's like, oh my god, this shit is so intense. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. I've only seen it like once or twice, but it's so good that that's the one I wanted to rewatch before doing this. I just didn't have the time to. But it's just an incredible movie, and especially like the way he changes like history, and it's like he changes history, but who doesn't want to just see Hitler get destroyed like that? So it's awesome. Yeah, it's just a great movie. That's probably the only movie that's like 70% subtitles that I'll be like, yeah, that's like one of my favorite movies. I just love reading the subtitles.
Casually pop that one in for sure. So going to the chat on Inglourious Bastards, people love this movie. Nazi scalps. The Hans opening, the pub scene, the cinema. Nazario loves the film. Eli Roth and the baseball bat. Jonathan Peck coming in with some trivia. He said, fun fact, did you know that Tarantino's first choice of Donnie is Adam Sandler, but Adam had to turn it down to do Funny People? I don't know how true that is.
Why not?
I believe he's probably. I have no reason to not believe him. He also said that Tarantino's first choice for Archie was Simon Pegg. I could see that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's I mean, like, not my first choice, but I can see it.
Fun fact about Archie Hickox: he's actually a relative of Pete Hickox from the Hateful Eight.
Oh, there you go. Because supposedly all his movies are connected, correct?
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah,
so
Donnie Donowitz is Lee Donowitz's grandfather from True Romance.
Oh, Jesus. Well, I've never seen that. So anyway, we will move on to his seventh film. This is the one I actually rewatched for this today because it's Django Unchained. When I saw this movie in the theater, I was absolutely blown away. Because it was still around that time where I wasn't 100% sure, like, about Tarantino and like what all of his. I hadn't seen all of his movies yet, and I went and saw it because my best friend in high school was like, "Oh man, you're gonna love it. It's gonna be great. You're gonna love it. It's gonna be. We'll go see it. It'll be fantastic." It's like the day after Christmas, we go and see this movie together in the theater, and I was absolutely blown away. It's probably the Tarantino movie I've seen the most, and that is further solidified today. Like, I rewatched it, and it's just perfect. I think that Waltz is actually even better in this movie than he is in Inglourious Bastards, which is saying a lot. He won the Oscar for this, right? He won both, right? Yeah. Bastards and this. Yeah, okay. And so, yeah, no, just absolutely fantastic from start to finish. I think that the final, like, 20 minutes or so does slow down a little bit, but it doesn't detract from the overall movie. I love Django Unchained. Sean, I believe this is your it's one of your favorites, right?
It's my second favorite Tarantino film. We talk a lot about the way that Tarantino uses violence, and one thing that he discussed was there's horrific violence and cathartic violence, and you get both of those in this. It's also it's a further exploration of his fascination with revenge, because Kill Bill is a revenge film. Inglourious Bastards is a revenge film, and this is a revenge film. And I absolutely love that. The hero's journey, the fact that it's not purely motivated by revenge, it's motivated by the fact that Django loves Brunhilde.
Yeah.
That is an added wrinkle, where it's like in spaghetti westerns, you talk about like the hero. The hero is almost never really the hero. They're an anti-hero that's basically just a foil to the villain. They're only so much a hero as the villain is just an absolute scumbag. But I actually agree with you about Dr. King Schultz. I think he's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Tarantino character of all time.
Because he's also kind of this. He's like the good version of
Wanda.
Yeah. So it's like Waltz is kind of playing the same character, but not evil. they were like, okay, here's another Oscar. Go ahead, take that. I was like,
Yeah,
But he's so good at just like this is like the dialogue of Tarantino at its finest, in my opinion. Like, I feel like he does such a good job of writing for Waltz, and specifically this character. Like, all of his little mannerisms that he has, and all of just like the way that he talks to not only Django but just like everybody in general. Just like, I think he's a fantastic character. Boatman, you've been so. Actually, hang on, Sean. You looked like you needed to say something.
Also, can we just talk about how funny the bag scene is?
Oh, it's really funny.
Oh,
It is
my
really
God.
funny.
I have never laughed so hard in a theater. Did anybody bring an extra bag? No, no one brought an extra bag. Look, I think
we all agreed that
bags was a nice idea. Oh,
but this time, no bags. But next time, bags, and we're gonna do it right that time. We're gonna do it right this time. No, we're wearing the goddamn bags.
It's great.
It's a raid. If I can't see shit, you can't see shit.
Boatman, you don't seem too impressed by Django Unchained.
Oh no, I like Django Unchained.
Classic Boatman.
I will say, I think this is his most epic film, like in terms of scale, and it feels like his most like epic and large, and there's something very like almost like classical about its scope. But I will say that I do think it's a little long. I feel like it could have been, the pacing just feels a little bit off for me. Could have been shortened a little bit, but that's really my only complaint. It's still a great film. I liked it more. I've rewatched it a couple days ago, and I liked it more on rewatch, actually. So I actually really enjoyed it more. DiCaprio is great, but I think really, to me, the standout is Samuel L. Jackson in this movie.
It's Steven.
He's really good. He's diabolical.
He is so diabolical as really the power behind the throne. That scene where he realizes what's actually going on, and then he is trying to get Calvin to like come back with him. It's like everything. He is honestly my favorite part of that movie.
Is it a hot take to say that Leo should have won his Oscar for
I agree.
instead of the Red?
No, it's not a hot take at all.
He's so good in this.
Yeah, I think he wasn't even nominated.
No, I don't think so. The moment where you see Leo for the first time as Calvin Candy,
it's
that
Monsieur
scene,
Candy.
Yeah, Monsieur Candy to you. That scene is probably the most. I don't even know what word to use. I think just the I don't know what word to use, but I just remember sitting in the theater. They walk into the room and they see that they're having the fight, and it's insane. Everything, just the way that he shoots the fight, you're so uncomfortable, but you're also just like in awe at like this guy Leo, who's normally playing characters that you're like rooting for and a great guy, and he's just this despicable human being. And the way that he just like talks, and before you meet him that he's kind of like a pompous prick, that he doesn't actually speak French. Don't speak French to him. So
he doesn't like.
I just think he's a fantastic character. Other than Schultz, he's probably my favorite, but I also am a little biased. I love Leonardo DiCaprio. He's one of my favorite actors. So I think it's a fantastic movie all around. We can all agree.
Oh yeah.
All right, so let's move on to his 8th and final film that we've seen so far. Actually, quick, I'll get the chat's thoughts on Django Unchained. Nazario says it's his second favorite. He's also asking, can Sean confirm if Paula Schultz is the wife of King Schultz?
I don't think that's actually been confirmed anywhere. It's just like the heavily relied on theory.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
So that's there. And then Maggie said she's only seen it once, but it was the first one she ever saw. Doug is saying it deserves a rewatch. Doug actually jumping the gun a little bit. Hateful Eight is so good, way better than people give it credit for. Jonathan Peck jumping back in. Mr. Blonde's parole officer, Seymour from Reservoir Dogs, is related to Jack from Natural Born Killers. Again, I've never seen it, so I don't know. Maggie said all of Tarantino's films are a little long, so whatever. And yeah, love to hate. I think Nazario's talking about, about Calvin Candy. You love to hate him. Absolutely. So again, moving on to Hateful Eight. This is a movie that I was so pumped to see because of my reaction to Django. The fact that I thought he was doing another Western I thought was interesting, considering all of his films had been so different up to this point. I was still very interested to see it, obviously. I went and saw it when they did like the road show, like the 70 millimeter road show. So that's how me and Maggie saw it. And it was like an extended version with like an intermission and extra musical stuff. So that was really cool. I actually really, really like this movie. I think it's in my top. It's probably like my number like four or five. I really like I really like this movie a lot. Every time I watch this movie, I like it more and more. I completely agree with Nazario. I think it's really underrated and people don't give it enough credit. I think it's an absolutely awesome film.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think you're spot on. I think you're spot on. It's definitely one of Tarantino's more underappreciated films. It's an extremely self-contained film, and sort of the claustrophobia of the environment really, really amplifies the tension, I find. It's also probably, I'd say, top 5 for me. Like, it's getting close to it, but it is just a tremendous film. Samuel L. Jackson is awesome in this movie, and so is Walton Goggins.
Yeah, I think everyone in this movie is absolutely fantastic. You even get you get Kurt Russell again, turning this film into beautiful gold.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Though the thing about Kurt Russell, oh god, I can't believe he did this.
Smashing the guitar.
Oh, dude, I mean, as a guitar player, like that's like 140-year-old Martin, man. You don't do that.
He thought it was a prop. Does everybody know what we're talking about?
Yes, the guitar he smashes was actually real and not a prop.
Yeah, so if you don't know in the audience, there's a scene where Jennifer Jason Leigh's character is playing the guitar, and Kurt Russell comes up, grabs the guitar, and I think in the script he was supposed to just grab it, and then they were going to cut maybe and give him a new guitar. So they were going to do something. He wasn't supposed to smash it, but he smashes it. And so when Jennifer Jason Leigh in the movie is like, "Oh my God," no, that's completely genuine.
That's a real reaction.
Like 140-year-old, like priceless guitar. And he didn't know. He thought it was a prop, and he was just in the moment and smashed a priceless guitar, which is poor Kurt Russell.
I do think I liked the twist of it to where because you kind of somebody's helping her, but it turns out like it's everybody except because they kind of paint Goggins because he's like the sheriff or whatever, so inherently he's racist. They're all racist, but whatever. And then so they kind of paint like everybody is sketchy except for Russell and Jackson. And then it's like, because they're all in on it except Goggins, who it turns out to be the actual good guy. And then also one of my favorite lines of it is just where you get Jackson, where it turns when you start to like, it turns from like who done it to where it just starts to fall apart, where he's like, "You say Millie left it to you and blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "There used to be a sign right there that said, 'No dogs or Mexicans.'" And she took it down only because she started letting in dogs. And then it like that's the flip of the movie where it's like it just goes to shit. And just his classic like Samuel L. Jackson in a Tarantino movie delivery of that is really great.
Well, that whole speech, right? Because the intermission when I saw it cuts right at like that whole speech towards the middle of the movie where he's talking about the Bruce Dern's son. That whole sequence, speech from him is insane. He's wild in this movie. It's insane how dedicated he was. And speaking of being dedicated, Maggie says we should forgive Kurt Russell because he was just dedicated to his role. He didn't mean to smash the guitar. Completely understandable. Jonathan Peck coming in saying the original score was Italian composer. I can't pronounce his name, but he won the Oscar, right?
Yeah, Ennio Morricone won for that movie.
Yeah, it was his first complete Western score in 33 years and his first for a high-profile Hollywood production since 2000. So that's a bit of a cool nugget of information there. But he won – he was still alive when he won the Oscar, though, right? Or was it post –
No, he's still alive, I think.
Is he still alive? Okay, I thought he passed away for some reason.
Yeah, because I remember him accepting it.
Yeah, no, it was – but it's a fantastic score. Boatman, how do you feel about the film?
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I love the movie a lot. Speaking of the score, which is fantastic, Ennio Morricone actually used some of his like unused music from The Thing in this movie.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, which if you actually look at like a lot of Hateful Eight, Tarantino has even said like it was inspired a lot by The Thing. Like there are lots of kind of parallels within the paranoia of, you know, who's actually good, who's actually bad, and the kind of ambiguous ending and all that. Like there are some references to The Thing, and it was very inspired by that. But I love this movie. Honestly, my standout is Jennifer Jason Leigh. I think she's the best part of this movie. She's great. And then Channing Tatum not being anywhere on the posters and then just showing up 3/4 of the way through the movie is fantastic. But the entire cast is great. I don't look at it as much as like a Western, as much as I look at it as like an Agatha Christie style whodunit. Like I look at it more as a throwback to like that, just with like a post-Civil War time period thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I definitely get that. But do we have Jim, Hateful Eight? You've kind of talked about it a little bit in here. A little. You love this movie as well.
Yeah, I would say it's probably off the top of my head there. Out of 8, it's probably in that 4 or 5-ish range. I mean, I haven't seen 2 of them, so
that's true.
I can't imagine liking Jackie Brown or Grindhouse more than Hateful Eight. But and the fun fact of this one was this is the one that almost didn't get made because like the entire script got leaked online, and then Tarantino went all like that shit crazy about like, how dare you put mine in the blah blah blah, and then he like basically rewrote huge chunks of it, and we actually got it. And I was mad because I was like, I wanted to see that movie so fucking bad, but then it finally got made, so that was good.
Have any of you seen the like extended version that's on Netflix right now?
That's like
episodes.
That's like episodes because it's like 4.5 hours long. I have not.
It's not that long. It's only, I think it adds, because the movie is like 2:45 theatrically. The version that I saw in theaters was it was exactly 3 hours. But again, what I saw was like added intermission, a big musical opening and ending. And that is all in this Netflix thing. But there's also added footage. So I think the total runtime is like 3:20, 3:30 or something like that.
Oh, that's not as bad.
No, it's not as bad. But none of you have seen it because I haven't. I don't know.
I have not seen it either.
Sean?
I have not seen it. It's probably it is the only thing Tarantino has done that I haven't seen yet.
Yeah, so if you've seen it in the chat, let us know if we should watch it. But that being said, I already talked a little bit about what Jonathan had to say about the score. Maggie said I shouldn't assume people are dead, so I'll stop doing that. And then, we will. Those are the 8 films that he's made so far. But he has a 9th film coming out, guys, and it comes out on Friday. And I would assume we're all seeing it this weekend.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're all seeing it this weekend. That's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Tarantino's 9th film. It's starring Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. I've actually got a really cool thing to share. I work at a movie theater in Wisconsin where I live, and I don't know if he's a star of the film because I haven't seen it yet, but the guy who plays Bruce Lee in the movie is coming to my theater to watch the movie on Saturday, so I get to meet him.
That's cool.
Wow. He rented out he didn't even rent it out. He just like bought all of the seats in the auditorium and then called the theater and said, "Hi, my name is this. I play Bruce Lee in the movie and we're coming on Saturday. Be ready for us." And we were like, okay. So That's going to be really cool. I'm excited for that. But I'm just excited to see this movie because every piece of marketing I've seen for this thing, it makes me think I'm going to fucking love this.
Exactly same for me.
Yeah. Like, how are you? Like, Jim's obviously excited as I am. Sean, how do you feel? You seem to be the biggest Tarantino expert we've got here.
I'm the biggest Tarantino whore, so I will go see anything that man does, but I'm extremely excited. Apparently Brad Pitt's incredible. That's awesome though. You said this coming Saturday you get to meet Mike Moe.
Is that his name? Yes. So yeah. I believe, this awesome. Saturday, the 27th. I believe he was also in Marvel's Inhumans show. I don't know beyond that. I don't know what else he's been in. But yeah, that's the guy. If he plays Bruce Lee in the movie, that's who I'm meeting. So that's cool. I'm super stoked.
I'm freaking hyped. It's everything I love in movies. It's, like 60s, 70s cinema. It's Quentin Tarantino. It's Brad Pitt and friggin' Leo and Margot Robbie.
The cast is just ridiculous.
Yeah. The cast
is just ridiculously stacked.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell's on the poster, and we have the poster up in the lobby of my theater. And Maggie has literally visited my theater every week forever since I worked
just
there.
To see Kurt.
No, she didn't know he was, and all of a sudden she goes, "Wait a minute, Kurt Russell's on that poster." And I go, "Yeah, his name's on it too." And she goes, "He's in the movie?" And I was like, "Yes." And so now she's even more excited. Boatman, are you excited?
Yeah, I am very, very excited for this. I think Tarantino has gotten Leonardo and Brad Pitt. He's gotten like some of the best performances out of those two actors. So seeing them coming back to work with Tarantino, I'm very excited for, and the entire rest of the cast looks great. It looks just incredibly epic, and I'm very, very excited, especially to see something of Tarantino's that will I'm kind of hoping it will, at least dialogue-wise, kind of harken back to more of maybe some pop culture discussions like we get in Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction and Kill Bill and Jackie Brown.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving over to the chat and what they're saying about the film. So Doug has his ticket for Thursday, so he's excited. Maggie didn't know that the Bruce Lee guy was coming to my theater. She's excited about that. It'll be cool. Nazario, unfortunately, the movie won't open where he lives for another month, which is very sad. Maggie's posing an interesting question, though, which I like. This has been in the news a lot. Will Tarantino end up directing more than 10 movies? He said that he's not going to, that he's only going to direct 10 movies, and that's it. He has also said recently that he wants to do a Star Trek movie. That's been in the news for a while. And he said that if he does that, that doesn't count as his 10th movie because it's not an original film that's his. So he could do Star Trek, and then he could also do a 10th film. Do we think that he's going to get the itch to do more, that he'll quit after 10 and then be like, in 15 years, come back with an epic 11th film? What do we think?
I think he will just make more stuff, but he'll loophole his way around it like he's doing with Star Trek. He'll just kind of say, well, this isn't technically in the canon, so this
isn't in the 10 Quentin Tarantino movies, so it doesn't really count, but it's like really.
He has also said that he wants to direct plays and TV, and I believe, I don't know exactly because I haven't seen the movie yet, but Rick Dalton apparently is in a Western show in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and that he wrote episodes of this fake show in the movie to give to Leo. Because he gave those scripts to Leo so that Leo could get into character and everything. And now he's saying he might actually make that show with Leo. So that could be cool.
Leo, technically, he's already loopholed his way if he's going to make another film after this. Because, most of us view Kill Bill as one, giant story, and it's two films. Like, you made two movies, dude. You had to separate it out into two halves, and now this is your 10th film. So,
I mean, he definitely doesn't see it that way because I think
he doesn't
originally
see it that way, but it's like, you know, if you're gonna loophole yourself into making more movies, just shut up and make more movies.
I think
Also,
that, you know,
if he does leave after 10, I'm gonna be super fucking depressed for like.
I think that 20 years ago he probably said, "Oh, how cool would it be if I made 10 films and then, you know, after that 10th film I just retire? That would be so cool." And now that he's getting close to it, he's like, "Oh fuck!" And he's on this press tour for the movie, and everybody's like, "Quentin, what are you gonna do after your 10th film?" And he's like, I don't know. I'm gonna make a TV show. I don't know." So we'll see what happens. No matter what. If he's directing plays, TV, I'm sure people will watch it. That's going to do it for us, though, guys, for this episode of Multiplex Loves Movies, talking about Quentin Tarantino. Next week, we are going to be talking about Fast and the Furious films. And that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody on that panel likes Fast and Furious. It just means that that's what we're talking about. We'll talk about that next week. But in honor of Hobbs and Shaw coming out next week, that is what we are talking about on the show next Tuesday night, same time, same channel, same bat channel. Jim, we'll start with you. Where can the good people of the Multiplex universe follow you?
If you're in the Multiplex group, you'll see me. If you want to add me, I probably will decline you because you're weird looking. And then other than that, I don't really have much presence elsewhere, except for that time that I lost in the greatest fan league of all time movie trivia face-off, because when was Homeward Bound released is a 3-point question.
All right. And Sean, where can people find you?
You can find me at Sean.Sandberg at both Twitter and Instagram. You can find me any good place that movie trivia is being played. You can find me with my team partner, Kaleb Boatman, looking to play against Blockbuster Video pretty soon. So looking forward to that. Yeah, let's get to that. Let's get to Team 80s.
Yeah.
All right. And Boatman, what about you? Where can people find you?
I run Movie Warzone. We had 2 matches go up yesterday. One of them I was in. I played James White. That was a good match. And yeah, check out all the stuff we got going on Movie Warzone. And yeah, Sean, let's get to Team 80s. Let's do that.
And guys, you can find me here every Tuesday hosting Multiplex Loves Movies. You can also find me everywhere else at Tim Loves Movies. That's kind of the shtick there. Next week, actually this weekend, you can find my review of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood on my channel at Tim Loves Movies. Go over there and subscribe so you can check out that review when it drops. But
I'll be watching
if you are new here, oh, thank you. But if you are new here to Multiplex, hit subscribe. Like this video, watch the other videos we're posting. Like Boatman said, 2 Warzone matches went up yesterday. Also, 2 Fandom matches went up today. Fandom is a league that I help run with Cain McMillan and Kaleb Koho. We're pumping out a lot of matches to get this tournament up, but there's a lot of really, really, really good matches coming out. So watch those tomorrow night. Your List Sucks, hosted by Cody Newberry. Go and watch that. That's going to be really, really fun as well. So lots of great content coming here at Multiplex Entertainment. So hit subscribe, hit that bell icon so you know every time we've got something coming out. But again, that has been Jim, that has been Sean, that has been Boatman, I have been Tim. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next week.